Thank you for joining me, Shahid Manning, the host of Interviewing Hollywood. I have the privilege of being here on the set of Armstrong's Kid, written by Stanley Bennett Clay, starring Stanley Bennett Clay and Torry Scroggins. Thank you both for being my first guests.
Well, thank you, Shahid, for having us here.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm the one that's thankful. So listen, let me introduce you first, Stanley. So Stanley, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have been in the industry for many, many years. I mean, you've done everything from acting to writing to editing a magazine, etc. What else have you done in the industry?
Well, as you mentioned, I've done pretty much everything: composing, editing books as well. You name it, I've done it. I'm fortunate to have been now in my 41st year as a member of the Screen Actors Guild.
Wow.
And so I'm really, really proud of that achievement. And it's just been a very charmed life that I've had. I mean, it hasn't always been easy, but it has always been good. And I love this industry. I love the entertainment world. I love the literary world. And to have been able to make my living at it for my entire adult life has been quite a privilege.
Fantastic. And Torry, you've been in acting for about 7 years, right? Is that what I understand?
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit about what you were doing. Tell us a little bit about your background in acting.
My background in acting is mostly theater, but also a little bit of TV, a little film as well.
So how did you come to get this role?
How did I come to get this role?
Uh-oh, did I ask something?
Yeah. No, we were actually sitting on it.
Whoa.
We were not screwing. No screwing.
This is the very couch that brought me to get this role. No, actually, I have had a very close friendship with Stanley ever since I was about 20 years old. He's always been a mentor of mine, encouraged me as a writer, as a makeup artist, as a producer, whatever, anything I ever wanted to do, he's always encouraged and nurtured that. And when I came to the conclusion that I wanted to produce a stage version of 6 Degrees of Separation, I thought of Stanley to direct it. I called him and to talk to him about it. And he mentioned his brand new play, Armstrong's Kid, sent me a script that day, and I read it and knew immediately that this was fate. And took him out to lunch and optioned the rights. And
obviously the rest is history, because you got the role, didn't you?
I did.
And an excellent job you do at it, Torry,
Thank you.
I have to tell you. So bringing us to Armstrong's Kid, let me tell my audience about the background, because when I read this, I was just in awe. I was absolutely in awe. So it's about a kid who, at about age 26, comes to meet the teacher who he has 11 years hence accused of child molestation.
Right.
So he's coming for an apology.
Right.
Right. Where did this story come from, Stanley? I mean, my mouth dropped when I saw this. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, there's an obvious inspiration that it came from, but it's not actually the story itself. When I was the editor of SBC magazine, what had happened was we did a story on a school teacher that actually was falsely accused of child molestation. And that's sort of where that story ends and my story began. And I always remembered that, and I always remembered how vulnerable particularly gay individuals can be, because just by virtue of the fact that we're sometimes just around children, that we still live in a very homophobic society and a world that tends to find homosexuality and illicit sexual activity, particularly with minors, synonymous. A very unfair sort of assessment, but an assessment nonetheless. So it's very easy for a gay individual to be subject to those sort of allegations. And all it takes is for a child to just say, he touched me, and your ass is in jail. Right. So that's kind of where the idea came from. And I just sat down and said, well, what happens if 11 years later, this now grown kid who lied has a thing of conscience and decides to find out if he can be forgiven by the person that he actually sent to jail.
Right, so you were motivated by this story that you had done when you were in the publishing,
Right.
but then you actually bring us all the way forward. We don't really hear about it. I mean, we're kind of sort of, as the audience, we're very sensitive to the fact that that happens in society and stuff, but this is really entertaining. This is really about the cat and mouse between these two characters in a kind of sort of, I don't know, social, intellectual thriller. I mean, I was sitting out there like, wow, this is going back and forth, because check it out. I loved it. At first, everyone in the audience, I could feel in the audience, trust me. Everyone in the audience like, how dare this kid come up here? This is all we had at first. How dare this kid come up here just to say, I'm sorry, over some, they did when they were 14. We were all with you wanting to just take off our belts and beat that, you know what. until we understood where he was coming from. So at first we were all on your side, and then we said, oh, and when he finally blurted it out, it was like, oh, you took my father from me. I did anything to get his attention back. And then we were all like, oh, you know, we can understand that. We were kind of sort of waffling like this. And then we had the extra dynamic.
Don't give it all away now.
Okay.
Yeah, don't give it all away.
Well, you know, we're going to see it in the excerpt. By the way, you'll be able to see the excerpt. They did a wonderful job. 18 minutes. You'll be able to click on it on this website, on GBMnews, adjacent to this interview, and see the wonderful job that they did. I won't give it all away, but they add another dynamic, and you're like, oh my God, your character almost becomes a villain until we understand your subtext to it. It was really, where do these motivations come from? I mean, come on, that's in addition to what we just talked about. Then you put the motivation on. This comes from your talent. I mean, where did this come from, Stanley?
Well, it actually comes from just the basic rules and of dramatic writing. The great thing that I love about the theater, and probably I love the theater probably more than any other form of writing, is that it's all about the words and all about this. There are very few special effects and things like this. But what you really have is you have people talking on stage and creating emotional situations through their words. And out of that, when we really listen to what people are saying, we are a marvelous group of animals, we people. Because things come out of us, yeah, but we are, you know, things come out of us that are so amazing. And I am never not fascinated by the surprising things that comes out of people's mouths. If you really listen to it, it's really quite amazing. So as a playwright, I get a chance to explore those things. And you know, in the play, you know, when you drink enough Jack Daniels, it's amazing the things you say.
Hey, wait a minute now. That's not Jack Daniels over there, right? That's cranberry juice, right?
No. That's, well, we call it Jack Daniels.
Okay.
I mean, because
right.
Obviously as actors
Don't give it away.
well, actually as actors on stage, we would never ever be drinking on stage for real, because then we lose control, and then we're cheating the audience who's sitting here paying their money to see us give them a solid performance. So it's tea.
Okay, it's tea. Okay, sweet tea from the South.
Too much information now.